Do QR codes present a threat? And, of all things, AM radio. This is Mac Voices. Today's Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices After Dark. Uncensored, off-topic, and always off the wall. MacVoices After Dark is available as a benefit to our Patreon subscribers. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, our rather heated discussion about QR codes continues in this edition as we take a look at whether or not they represent a threat vector you need to be concerned about. And then we wrap up with a short commentary on the state of all things AM radio. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. Jeff, jump in there with that, because that's another point I was going to make, but I'll let you do it.
All right. The concise version. Can we really expect the average smartphone user to have the knowledge and awareness to be able to recognize potential security threats? And my take is no, we can't. This is something that people like us maybe are monitoring all the time and really looking. I mean, Andrew, yes, Andrew, you're the guy here that's really on top of all this. And I watch a lot of this stuff because I'm writing about it for companies. But I mean, the average person, they have no clue. And to expect them to have that level of knowledge, I don't think that's practical or reasonable.
What level of knowledge? I mean, the phone has a feature. You can point it at a QR code, and it's in the operating system. This is a feature that Apple has decided.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, then I don't understand. What are we?
What I'm talking about is what are the threat vectors? What do people need to be aware of? What should they be able to recognize as a potential security threat for their devices? And I mean, the QR codes, they're awesome because anyone can point their phone at a QR code and it's like, okay, tap this and you've got an app. Boom, done. But expecting the average user to be aware of the types of security threats that are out there, what they need to be watching for on a daily basis, no, we can't expect that of people.
But we can try to educate them. But I'm with you, Jeff. I mean, and that's why we're having the discussion. Is because if the world were easy and simple and safe, then you could point your phone at anything. You could click any link you want. You could enter any URL you want. But that's just not the world we live in, unfortunately.
Is there? Maybe I'm just totally clueless. I've never heard of an exploit via QR code, and it seems to me if there was one, that would be pretty highly publicized. Again, Andrew, I'm sure. Is there such a thing as an exploit that'll attack a phone through a QR code?
Yes.
Okay.
I've written about this.
So that feature should be turned off. I don't want it on my phone, period. How do I turn it off?
On iOS, I don't think you can.
How is that not a major
Isn't
story?
It in camera settings? I'm going to double check.
Well, there's also the code
actually,
scanner
it probably
too.
is in camera settings.
But you just don't point your phone at a QR code, Jim. I mean, that's what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Baloney. This is a
camera scan QR codes. You can turn it off right there.
Okay.
All right.
But I mean, even if you couldn't turn it off, the way I see it is, you can be exploited through QR codes, but you can also do through emails. So I just think we're kind of like slowly advancing our tech to the point where we have these ever increasing levels of things we got to watch out for, like Jeff mentioned.
Well, what is the exploit that you can do with a QR code?
I wrote about this a while ago, but it was these QR codes. I think it was in Texas, maybe, where people just scan them on parking meters and they redirected them to this malicious phishing website where I think it was probably, people entered their information into this pretend, probably banking website, and they got their information stolen.
Okay, that's not an exploit as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
I'm saying, so it takes them to a website and then they have to do something stupid at that point. Sure, of course. I'm talking about you pointed at, you say, go for the QR code and now your phone's hacked. That to me is an exploit. That's an exploit.
Okay. Now
right,
that
so that's a maliciously crafted website. And so what you need at that point is something that, okay, so like, let's say it's an Android device.
No, it's got to be an iPhone.
Okay, so there's a security flaw where you can do like a buffer overflow on an iPhone that we haven't discovered yet. And so now you embed that into a maliciously crafted website. So when someone scans the QR code, it loads this URL that then causes the overflow that gives them access to run arbitrary code on your device. Done.
Well, you know what? I think I am willing to take the risk that a QR code on a parking meter in Podunk does not, have that kind of attack in it.
And well, Jim, and I'm with you on that. I mean, yeah. I'm scanning QR codes in public all the time, and I'm trusting that it's actually what it's supposed to be. But my point was, there's so many potential security threats and vectors out there. How can we possibly expect the average person to have any level of awareness of that? People are just going to go and scan whatever, and that's it.
Well, you just said you do that.
I do that. Yes.
It doesn't mean it's a good idea. It just means he does it.
But I also have a level of awareness.
I think it is a good idea. Well, you're not going to, if it comes up with some website, you're not going to enter your social security number and,
Right. And I also look at the little URL preview that pops up on my screen because I know what that is.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Yeah. But like,
I forgot that it did that, but yeah.
If there's a QR code that's just like taped on a pole as I'm walking down the street, I'm not scanning the code.
No, I probably wouldn't either, but
yeah, okay, if I could wrap this up, I think Jim, maybe the way this thing evolved, I think you were looking at very narrowly on what's unique to QR codes, but I think as the discussion has evolved, to summarize it, it's just QR codes are another attack vectors for bad guys to get stuff into your phone. One thing that's out there,
it's
I'm sure
just
we all
a
get
URL.
A URL can be an attack vector,
right?
Jim.
That's the exact attack vector.
But it's no different than a URL. And other than exploits, and somebody discovering an exploit like that, it's unlikely, that is going to be on a printed, thing somewhere out in the world. That's not going to be a very good way, because the exploit's going to get figured out and fixed.
Again, I don't know. I mean, you're making a lot of assumptions. I'll make a lot of other assumptions that may be just as reasonable or unreasonable as yours. That somebody who finds this could go, "Oh, this is great," and he goes out and prints up the cue card. He goes in a downtown area like Sunnyvale, California, or Mountain View, California, Palo Alto, California, sticks these things on menus or on doors, and all of a sudden it's out there. Because I've seen, just talking about low tech, sort of scanners and skimmers that steal, credit card information, at ATMs. They pop up in the lowest, some of the lowest, most very rural parts of California. So you can't make any assumption about where the bad guys are going to be attacking.
But this started because Chuck said he would be reluctant to use an app clip because it involved a QR code.
Yes, I did, and that. But that's first of all, that may be my paranoia. but you have to recognize it's a potential attack vector. Okay, what are the percentages? Just like an email that I'm going to receive in 10 minutes from now, it has a link in it. Is that a potential attack vector? Yes. Is it possibly legitimate? Yes, it's possibly legitimate. In fact, depending on who it came from, it's probably legitimate. In fact, the odds are very high that it's legitimate. But if there's anything that looks just a little bit off, or even if it doesn't look off, I mean, I've received recent emails from Apple, ostensibly from Apple, that, click here for something that sounds pretty reasonable, except that I'm a geek. Okay.
And again, it's like not.
Yeah,
well,
right.
Sorry,
but
it's not
0
just,
days.
It's just not web. I mean, we get a lot of stuff through text messages, because there, guess what? It's easy to it's easy to find devices and send stuff out to it. Sorry, your Amazon package is delayed. Click here, or your refund from Amazon, or pick this. Your favorite store, is ready. Just click here to finalize it. Guaranteed, those things are all just bad actors trying to download a bunch of stuff to try to take advantage of an exploit on your phone. And
you have to educate people. I think it was either last week or the week before that while we were doing the show, I got a text saying that a check had been deposited to my account. Click here. Well, okay, if you're not thinking, or if you're not savvy, it's like, I didn't deposit a check. What's this about? Click, and now whatever's going to happen has happened on my phone. Yeah. Now, whether to do, and Jim, the other thing that you make a really good point though about how do you define a compromise? How do you define, what has happened to your phone? If it's something as relatively benign as sending me to a malicious website, then okay, it's probably not as big a deal, because hopefully I'll recognize that. If it's something deeper, well, then that's worse. So, but as far as I'm concerned, anything that provides an opportunity for me to be stupid or be tricked and give them access to my funds or my privacy or anything, that's something that needs to be thought about.
Right.
Well,
and the solution to all these things
is what?
The solution is behavioral. It's partially technology, and it's behavioral in terms of just making sure that we here on this panel, as well as everybody else we know that we talk to, if something comes in that you're not expecting, trust no one, assume the worst. And if it looks like it's from your bank or credit card, don't click on the link. Log into your account or give them, pick up the phone and give them a call.
But I feel like so much of this is going, we're talking about app clips and QR codes, and 0 days, they're hard to come by, they're expensive, and they're only useful for a time limited period. So somebody could find a 0 day and they could send out a text or an email immediately to take advantage of it. But to weaponize that by putting it on a sticker somewhere, that just seems like, really unlikely way that would be weaponized. And again, do you use ATMs? ATM skimmers and theft is huge. Billions and billions.
I try, but my freaking bank, just never can get, can never get the things to go. So,
it's very difficult to protect yourself against that if you ever use an ATM. And I saw a talk about that. You can't tell if your ATM has a skimmer on it. Some, that's also a problem at gas stations, skimmers at gas stations.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think a QR code to launch an app clip is a reasonable risk. I mean, maybe not if it's like a handwritten sticker or something, but if you've got, obviously there's a one thing with here's the instructions and it's printed on a little metal plate or something, and I'm not going to have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But Jim, to take your example, and we got to move on from this because we're almost out of time anyway. But the skimmer thing. I mean, when I do use my credit card at a gas pump, or when I have to use an ATM, you better believe I grab a hold of that thing and try to rip it off the wall. and to see, now that doesn't mean that it still couldn't be a skimmer, but at least
Right.
I've taken that extra step to try to protect myself a little bit. And that's what I guess we're talking about here is just take that extra step. If you feel that in your judgment that QR code is secure, by all means, because it's a great little invention. But if there's even the shadow of a doubt in your mind, you may want to pass on it. That's what it comes down to. So,
but you're basically saying that app clips should never be used because they involve a QR code. So
no, I never said that. No, I never said that. I'm saying because
you should go to the tape. You were like, I don't know about this app clip thing. It uses the QR code.
Yeah, QR code. Yes, I'm going to be extra cautious if there's a QR code involved. But that would be if I went to get a cup of coffee and a donut. If there's a QR code involved, I'm going to be just a little extra cautious about it. Brad in the chat room says ATM should have a photograph posted of what this is what the thing should look like. At a gas station, don't insert tap with your chip-equipped card. Yeah, assuming that your gas station supports a tap of a chip-equipped card.
Yeah, this is, and the thing is, when I saw this talk, and this was a while ago, about ATM skimmers, you don't realize this is it's mob-controlled, and mostly a Russian mob. It's billion-dollar business. So their level of sophistication is, way beyond you can't tell. Even people that are employees of banks might not be able to tell necessarily.
Yeah. This edition of Mac Voices is supported by our Patreon subscribers and MacVoices After Dark. Ever wonder what happens before the Mac Voices live shows? Or what happens when the show ends or after the live feed closes? That's where Mac Voices After Dark comes in. If you are a Patreon supporter at any level, you get access to the video of our off-camera conversations. Uncensored, unedited, and always off the wall. It's a small thank you to our Patreon supporters who want to peek behind the curtain. Become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/MacVoices. And thanks to everyone who supports the show. Hey, there's one other I wanted to get to that we didn't get to last week. Mark brought this to us, so I'm throwing it in the chats right now. And Mark, I'm going to let you talk about this.
You're throwing me under the bus. Okay,
I'm throwing you right under the bus because I thought this was.
I can help you along, Mark. I'm in the radio, so
Mac oriented, but AM radio. I mean, what happened to AM radio?
Yeah, I mean, at first I saw it as Ed Markey, who's a senator in Massachusetts, senior senator, I think, to his Native American wannabe counterpart. But he's apparently written letters, and I found them. They're online through the link, out there, to CEOs of a variety of car companies, and basically he goes through. He's had excellent staff work. They go through just explaining, all sorts of reasons why they think AM is a valuable service, and then says, well, please respond to us by this date in December on your plans on. Do you plan to include AM radio or not? And if you do plan to include it, what are you doing to plan to mitigate interference in electrical vehicles? So at first, last week when I saw it, the story had just started to emerge. So I thought, okay, this is an old fart out of touch, senator. But I may be redundant there. But once I looked into it, I mean, he makes a point. I think so he cited all sorts of stats, which I looked at that point, and his citation of the things were bogus because he says, Americans get their news from AM radio, and you go and look at the survey that he points to in a footnote in his letter. And it's a multiple choice question. Which of these things do you use to get your news? And yes, do it. Which of the things do you prefer? And, AM radio was down at like 6%. Everything else was, they had other web-based and other broadcast technology. So at that time, without really looking at it, I figure, okay, this is either a dumb, congressman, or this is somebody who's just, blindly overlooking the facts to try to grab things to support his case. since then, since I've gotten the full letter and looking at it, I think he does make an interesting point that AM radio is the least common denominator. We all have it, and in times of crisis, if you're on a road and there's a fire, or a flood or something coming out, his argument is maintain it just for public safety purposes. So I'm persuaded by that. I may listen time to time to AM radio, but it's certainly not my prime media consumption, and it's sort of the media I listen to of last resort. If any of my podcasts, I don't open those things because I only have to drive 5 more minutes, and I don't want to start something that I get drawn into and can't listen to a logical stopping point. So that's sort of what it is. So I think really, if I were to reframe it, it's tossed back to the panel. It's you basically, it's about thumb up, thumb down on maintaining AM radio and our vehicles as in the interest of public safety.
I've been a follower of radio for a long time. I mean, I've been a radio junkie, into the local scene, knowing what's going on in the broadcast world. Radio business in general is going down the dumpster. I mean, it is just not a medium that is going to be living anytime soon here. Every time you turn, there are new hosts, there's new shows, there's all this stuff. A lot of these broadcast companies are trying to reinvent themselves. AM radio has been dead for quite a long time. There are radio companies that have stations that are actually simulcasting both their signals on not only AM as well as FM.
As well as their entire network too.
The entire network, right? Plus you have broadcast companies that have apps that can be easily be used on your phone. You can have an electric car that is easily going to have integration to that particular app. You can listen to any of that stuff all the time. HD radio is still around. I have that in my car, where you can go to a station that, if it's an AM station, the companion FM HD channel is simulcasting on that channel. Granted, HD sometimes is not good in a lot of areas as you drive, but it's really it's hard to say if it really affects it, because a lot of times you have these alternate HD channels that you can listen to, but no one listens to them because they're banished to the HD band. Right. AM in itself, I mean, I understand that the interference is going to be a drastic problem, but just like anything with technology, things change. I mean, I think broadcasters are going to have to start evolving and looking into these signals. And Chicago, where I live, there's a lot of they call them the 50,000 watt blowtorch for a reason, because they're big stations like WGN and WBBM and a lot of those other big stations in the Chicago area, which I'm very familiar with. These stations have started tearing down their transmitters. I mean, these stations had transmitters that were built out in the suburbs here for where I live. They took up 80 or 90 acres of land just to manage a transmitter site, because for an AM radio station. Do you think that they are maintaining that now? It was very lucrative to sell that land to developers, because they can put those transmitters somewhere else. So, I mean, I only bring that up because AM radio is a dying medium, and I mean, I think this is something that you got to think about, because there are going to be still us old fogies out there that would still want to listen to the AM stations, but it just isn't. It isn't the dominant force as it was, in its heyday in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 70s especially. People were listening. WLS was a big station in Chicago that everybody listened to here as well. So I mean, I'm giving you some of the stations that were big, but those stations are getting no ratings at all. Nothing. I mean, they're just not. No one's listening to them anymore. So if they were to pull the plug tomorrow, the FCC obviously has to take advantage of and take the fact of looking at it and examining what they should do with that band. Because look what they've done with the FM signals, where they the VHF and the TVs and all that stuff that's been going on. Well, where all these cellular carriers are buying up all this band, the band of those areas. So it's a part of life. Everything's evolving. So my final point of this is AM radio is just, it's dying, and I don't think this is a big, huge
I agree. And I would just, without getting too nerdy about this, sort of maybe the AM band is maybe a megahertz, in the spectrum from like maybe 480 to maybe 1500, 1540, so there isn't a lot of capacity there even for just data communications, so it's sort of like the old carrier band on phones where basically the signal, you log into the base station and, you transmit back and forth what your phone ID device is. And, that's all it is, just a very low bandwidth band. And, I agree with you because, every time I'm tempted to touch an AM station, I end up cussing and swearing because it's mostly commercials.
And commercials.
Very little content and static. Yeah. I mean, that's why, if I want to listen to content, it's something I take on my phone, or I stream live down, over the telecom network, to my phone. It's not AM. It's not, it's not really even FM.
No. Eric, you are an AM fan?
Yeah, I like AM radio. But I have to admit, I don't actually turn on a radio anymore because I just use the radio app.
Last time I have.
I like AM radio. I just don't listen to it.
Well, and then I can listen to it anywhere in the country, not just when I'm within the
I used to love
area.
to skip.
And even just driving home, there are areas where all of a sudden it flips and I'm listening to a station on the other side of the state because it's too close. And if I listen to it in the radio app, it just streams. It's consistent the whole way. The sound is good. It sounds better than it did, for years. But 970 AM, that was the barn station we always listened to because it gave you the news, gave you recipes, gave you story of the day, chapter of the day, for stories and books, and it was just really common.
Yeah, these stations aren't doing it.
And how many of you remember Paul Harvey and the other side of the story?
The rest of the story.
Oh, sure.
That was classic AM.
All right, here's my take on AM. As an entertainment medium, its day has come and gone, and frankly, I feel like FM radio as an entertainment medium has come and gone as well. There's a reason why we call these commercial networks, because their job is to play commercials and break it up occasionally with some other type of content. Okay, now AM specifically, here's the value I see in AM right now. We still are living in a society where assuming that everyone has a smartphone available to them is a wrong assumption. We still need to have some form of mass available emergency notification system. And AM serves that purpose incredibly well. So my hot take, which will probably piss off some people, is go ahead and take AM requirements out from the broadcaster licenses. I don't care. Doesn't matter. This should be a government responsibility. The federal government should be responsible for maintaining a nationwide AM radio network that can do broadcasts of all kinds of emergency content. And that way, it's just handled. We don't have to worry about are we forcing this on specific broadcasters to maintain something for the government. Instead, let our government do what it's supposed to do. Take this over, make that nationwide frequency, done.
No, I agree with that. I mean,
so you're right now. The only way I could listen to that would be to go into my car.
Sure. Yes, for you, for a lot of people, that would be the only way they can listen to it. However, they can listen to it.
Right. I mean, I still go on the AM band in my car. I mean, a lot of people do still.
What I find really intriguing about this, especially Eric's comments, is he says he's an AM radio fan, but he doesn't listen to it on AM. So I kind of think he's a fan of the programming that was there, but not the delivery necessarily, the delivery medium. because he just finished saying
Good point.
he can be driving across the state and he's listening to one program and he hits that boundary and it shifts to something completely different. Yeah. So, I think we're debating here the technology itself versus the programming. And unfortunately, the two, at least for AM, have pretty much become synonymous,
they really have.
as David said.
The programming
I think they should require the content to be delivered via USB-C.
On that note,
or QR code.
That's a good way to
start that
segue out.
Oh, yeah, but I do want to give Mark for adding a new term to our lexicon. His media of last resort. I like that a lot. So when nothing else works, but again, you got nothing else.
Because again, I agree. Listeners, mark this down. I think Jeff and I we're agreeing for the first, well, not the first time, but I think we agree in principle that the value of sort of the AM spectrum is public safety, and
I agree with that.
I for 20 years in the storage, 25 years in storage industry, people keep talking about spinning drives and how they're not how they're going to get replaced by all sorts of other technology. I say no. Storage drives are like cockroaches or like AM radio. They don't go away. The purpose keeps changing and migrating. So that's where it is.
Yeah, I think it's cheaper too. Hey, let's go around the room, find out where everybody can be found, and then we will get out of here. So I'm going to flip it around, start at the bottom of my screen anyway. And of course, the screen is rearranged itself a dozen times because people keep coming and going. So that puts Mr. Andrew Orr up first. Andrew, thank you so much for being here. What's the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, good to be here. You can find me writing at appleinsider.com. I'm writing about Apple and, various topics, privacy, security, occasionally reviews. I'm doing a lot of those now. So yeah, it's been fun.
Great. Thank you.
I've been seeing your byline a lot.
Yeah.
What's that?
But the next time, go ahead, Jim.
I've been seeing your byline a lot.
Oh,
yeah, he's been busy. So the next time we see him, he'll have a QR code on his T-shirt. Click it at your own peril. Brittany Smith, thank you for being here. What's the best place for folks to connect with you?
Thanks for having me, Chuck. The best place to find me right now is the same as it has been for a little bit for tech things, which is probably going to be YouTube. My brain might be a little broken after some of that. I'm ADD Liberator on YouTube, and I've been publishing weekly videos on tech things. And not every single week is it tech, but many of them are. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and Britt was the featured guest here. I guess it's now been about a month ago, where we talked about her video production, and it's pretty darn impressive. So if you aren't checking out her YouTube channel, you're missing out. So, hey, thanks for being here. Mr. Mark Fuccio, good to see you. Where can folks find you?
I'm still on Twitter. It has not it's not gone away. It's like maybe 5 weeks now under Elon Musk's stewardship. You can find me at Mark Fuccio, MarkFuccio, all one word.
Great. Thank you, Mark. The man who still loves AM radio, Mr. Eric Bolden. Eric, thanks for being here. What's the best place or best way for folks to connect with you?
This week at EA Bolden at techhub.social as I continue playing with Mastodon. It's going
okay.
So far.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Jim Rea.
Yes.
What's the best place for folks to connect with you?
Definitely a QR code.
On Twitter.
No. And it will lead to provue.com, PROVUE.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. Good to have you. Jeff Gamet, thank you for being here as always. What's the best place for folks to find you while you're trying to stay warm?
You can find me on K-Pants Radio 970 AM. When I'm not broadcasting, though, on all the socials, Jay Gamet, and I will say the social that is actually the most engaging for me right now is Mastodon. So mastodon.social for that one. And then how about some shows? Well, here on Tuesdays, then on Thursdays, The Big Show, and then Thursday evenings with Dave on In Touch with iOS, Fridays on the Mac Show, and then also on the Context Machine because Brian Chaffin and I have teamed up again.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Last but absolutely not least, we end up with where we started, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, where can folks find you?
Thanks for having me, Chuck. Find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. I'm on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios. I am on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network on Fridays, and here, of course, on Tuesdays. And you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65 and In Touch with iOS, and at mastodon.cloud at DaveG65. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. Folks, this is Mac Voices Live, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. What is Mark doing?
He's waving.
He's waving? Are you waving goodbye, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. He's waving goodbye. Yeah, we do this Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. With that, we'll see you next time for the holiday party. And otherwise, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.